Welcome to the I Am You podcast. I am your host, Dr. Nitza Alvarez, a board-certified cardiologist and best-selling author. My hope with this podcast is to share stories so women can speak up and become the CEO of their own health. I am a cardiologist. I am a wife. I am a mother. My story is your story. I am you. Welcome to another episode of I Am You. Today, I am delighted to be joined by Kimberly, this beautiful woman that you have in your cameras today. Kimberly, thank you for accepting the invitation
Thank you for having me.
Participate in the I Am You podcast. I'm so thrilled that you decided to come for many reasons, Kimberly. Number one, I recognize that it's not easy to be in front of the cameras or share the story of your healthcare story with the world, no? Mm-hmm. But you're trying to add meaning to your journey, sharing this journey with other women. And the goal of this podcast is that as we have brave women like you that come and open their heart and tell us and share their stories so we can save other women from not only dying from heart disease, but also falling victim of a heart condition that can actually take away the quality of their life. So I'm so grateful that you're here.
Oh, happy to be here.
And not to delay this, when you see this beautiful, amazing woman, look at this face, she's so young. But then that's why I want you to share, Kimberly, you have premature coronary artery disease. And for those that are listening to us, what does it mean with premature coronary artery disease? Any women that have been diagnosed with any type of heart disease when it comes to the plumbing system before the age of 55, they are considered to have premature coronary artery disease.
Okay.
However, how do we found that you have premature coronary artery disease? Start with how you start so early in your journey seeking for cardiac care. What prompted you to do that?
Okay. Well, my dad had a heart attack and has 4 stents, and his dad died at 52 after 3 heart attacks. And my mom's dad died at 45 after 3 heart attacks. So I knew I wanted to seek cardiologic care at a young age. So when I was 50, we were living in St. Louis, and I found a cardiologist. And he said to me, have you ever had a stress test? And I said, no. And I'll never forget, he said, it's an absolute travesty you've never had a stress test with the family history that you have.
I'm so glad that you found
He
somebody
was,
that
oh
said
gosh,
that.
he was great. And so we did the stress test. It was fine. And then we did the calcium score, which is a CT scan that shows evidence of calcium in your arteries. And you should have a score of 0, right? Meaning no evidence. And mine was 138, which he said was high for a 50-year-old. So he started me on a statin and aspirin. And I'm not sure how much after that, not too many months later, after a vigorous exercise class, I had chest pain, pain like in my neck. And I knew from my research that heart attacks could present differently in women, back, neck, jaw. So I immediately had my husband bring me to the emergency room. Thank God I did not have a heart attack. But my cardiologist was there at the ER, and he came in and he said, I want to know what's going on. So I want to do a cardiac catheterization tomorrow. And I had to spend the night. I said, can I come back tomorrow? He said, no, you have to spend the night. And so that's when I first found out I had a 30% blockage in my left anterior descending artery at 50 years old. So fast forward 3 years, and my mom is a patient of yours, and several friends in our neighborhood, several crazy friends in our neighborhood.
That we are familiar with.
That you're very familiar with. And highly recommended you, so I got in to see you right away. And every year I've seen you, you've offered me different tests to check different things, which I really appreciated, and was in for my yearly follow-up in December, now age 55. And you said to me, since it's been 5 years since you had your cardiac cath, I want to see what's going on, so let's order a CT angiogram. And I said, what is that? Mm-hmm. I didn't know this. So just a different way to check for blockages, right, without the invasiveness of the catheter.
You got it.
So we did that, and I saw the report before your office called me, and I went to panic mode because it said I had over 90% blockages 5 years later.
So you know that actually the radiologist called me and said, when you get a chance, can you call me? And of course, when they call me like that is because they're seeing something that is abnormal that they want to share with me directly rather than waiting for me to look at the report.
Okay.
So at that moment, I also knew kind of like, okay, so there is something related to the CT angiogram. But okay, so we are talking about 5 years gap in between that initial test that shows that there is a normal, essentially normal coronary angiogram. It wasn't normal. There was some disease, and the calcium
30%,
score already showed that there was some disease. So then
Right.
that's why your cardiologist was so proactive. Which, by the way, I am so thrilled to hear that they're there. So that actually, I think that for the audience is important because sometimes we talk about how many times a woman go and they get neglected, they're not seen, which is the majority. But
Right.
there are providers out there that are proactive, that they're
Yes.
aware that they, when he recommended that you get a stress test, you were young, and so not many women at your age will be offered a stress test by a cardiologist because why would we worry? But he was
Right.
very mindful of not only your family history and your increased risk for heart disease, but also when you went to the hospital, even though you didn't have a heart attack and you didn't have changes in there to be suspicious of anything, he was concerned enough that your symptoms are not normal, and even though we don't have any abnormalities, I want to get to the bottom of this.
Right.
So even being proactive, which I wanted to use the point of this, like you were proactive, you were exercising, you were, because you knew your family history, because now 5 years ago, you were told you already had the beginning of disease.
Right.
You were taking the medication, making sure that you have your cholesterol checked, that you were checking all the boxes to prevent that from becoming an issue for you down the road. But unfortunately, there's so many things that are not controllable. We can control a lot of things. 80% of the cardiac disease that we diagnose and the women that we continue to bury, it can be preventable. But there is a little bit of that we cannot control. In your case, you did everything to control what it was controllable, but of course, genetics also play a role. So we see 5 years later, you end up developing the disease that needed attention
Right.
and needed to be fixed.
And we changed our diet, my husband and I both. We stopped eating meat, exercise, did all the things to try to fight it. But yeah, I think, genetics sometimes wins.
And that goes to say, okay, before we go over that, I wanted to just go back to that statement that you said. I know sometimes people said, you're doing all these good things, and for what? If you ended up having heart disease, it's like, wait a second, maybe she would have developed it when she was 40 instead of when she was 55.
Oh, exactly.
Not if you were not to change your lifestyle
Exactly.
and be so
Imagine,
proactive.
right. Imagine if I hadn't done all that.
Exactly.
Absolutely.
But then that also, for the women that are listening to us today, goes to the fact that you are doing everything. The fact, and we had other women sitting in your chair that are vegan, that they're doing everything, and they still develop heart disease. So
Right.
that goes to get checked. It doesn't. It's much better to know, so you can actually not only give you power to say, okay, if I already had the beginning, let me be proactive and work on this, but also the fact that you're doing everything correct, that doesn't necessarily mean that you won't develop the disease.
Right.
So, I want you to share your thoughts about when you were when you noticed that the angiogram had changed dramatically, and you're like, oh my God. Was that more because you were hoping that that everything that you did could have prevented from getting there, or more of the future? What?
More of the future. I think I came back to, the preventative measures that I had tried. But in the beginning, it was, this is not good. I was just scared. I was scared to move. I was scared to exercise, until we did the calf, I think six days later. I was in shock. And I still am in shock. It was only, 2.5 weeks ago, I think I had the stent placed.
Yeah. So very normal to feel like that, particularly you're very young. And even though you have it always in your mind that there is a history in your family of heart disease, but at the same time, it's a good moment for us to reflect on, thank goodness that you were actually seeking care. And
Yes.
thank goodness that you didn't assume and that you were not scared of knowing, because so many people don't get tests because they're scared of knowing.
Right,
And then
yeah.
not knowing could have cost you much more
Right.
than this process that, yes, it's an adaptation, and everybody goes through the process of kind of like depression, anxiety. How do I now care for myself? What can I do? What can I do? But not knowing could have cost you a heart attack, which could have
Absolutely.
led the heart be weak and so the other complications.
And I really feel like it was a collaborative effort between you and I, because in that my appointment in December, I said, well, when you said let's do the CT angiogram, I said, okay, well, when would you like to do that? And you said, oh, for your appointment next year, like a year from now. And I said, well, it's actually been 5 years this year. And you said, oh, you're right. Let's do it this year. So thank God I spoke up. Mm-hmm. And thank God you offered that test, which I hadn't heard of. And so between the two of us, we got it.
Yeah.
We stopped it. Yeah.
And
it's the potential disaster. Yeah. So.
And that goes to say that it takes a team. No?
Absolutely.
So you could have say, but why don't we do it now? It's been 5 years. And I'm like, no, let's do it when you come back. No, like insisting because I already said that. No, like listening to what you had to say and then recognizing, oh, yeah, that's true. Okay, so 5 years has passed. Let's just do it right now.
Right.
So the audience that is listening to this podcast today is actually recognizing that heart disease doesn't have a face because they're seeing how beautiful you are. That heart disease doesn't have an age because we already said that you were diagnosed very early in life. So these are the messages that we're trying to get across our community and to our women to understand that don't wait until it's too late to get evaluated.
Right.
And you don't necessarily have to have symptoms to have heart disease. What would you say to your friends and family or people that said, I don't even know why you get checked? What would you say to the ones that are listening and still thinking that they're okay?
Yeah, I mean, I didn't have symptoms. I had no idea I had a 90% blockage. So I'm shouting from the rooftops to everyone, get a cardiologist. Like, I think everyone should have one, and get a baseline check because we don't know what's going on in our bodies.
We don't know until we know.
We don't know until we know. And we have one heart, and we have to take really good care of it because without that, we got nothing.
That is correct.
We can lose a kidney, maybe. We don't want to, but we just have one.
We only have one heart, yes. So I think that having you here is the best example of the importance of being proactive and how being proactive can save your life. And you did save your life in being proactive through all these years because you did this. You started early. And even though in the journey we did discover that the disease was there, we were able to act in a timely manner before it claimed your life.
Absolutely.
And I am so grateful that you gave me the honor to serve you. And I'm grateful that you listened to your friends and family and said, okay, so I'm going to go and continue my cardiac care. And I want for every woman to have that opportunity. It doesn't have to be me, but it has to be somebody that is there to advocate for you and that recognize that women are different and that they had to listen to us.
Absolutely.
Thank you for joining me today.
Thank you, and thank you for being such a great cardiologist.
Thank you. Thank you. And this takes us to the end of another episode of I Am You. Thank you for joining us today. I hope this episode has empowered you to be the CEO of your own health. Tune into our next episode, and don't forget to follow us on Instagram and Facebook at NITZAMD. To explore more on this and related topics, visit our website, NITZAMD.com. If this episode resonated with you, please like and subscribe. And one more thing, share with the wonderful woman in your life.